Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Andre Nada. I am the Product Outreach Manager at Muckrock for DocumentCloud. And thank you very much for joining us for the Sunshine Week event, where we are speaking with representatives from Puerto Rico's Center for Investigative Reporting. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. Carlos and Carla, I would like you all to introduce yourselves right off the bat. Carla, you first.
Yes, sure. Thank you for having us, Andre. And my name is Carla Minet. I am the Executive Director at Centro de Periodismo Investigativo in Puerto Rico. And this is my fellow Carlos Ramos.
Hi, I'm Carlos Ramos. I am an attorney here for el Centro de Periodismo Investigativo, and I help with their transparency program that has not only legal stuff, but also outreach and events like the ones that we're doing today. So I'm happy to be here with you all.
I'm happy to have both of you here. And because I have a feeling we're going to have him speaking during the course of the session, Sanyan, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sunyan. I'm the open source fellow at Muckrock, working on DocumentCloud and DocumentCloud add-ons. I also work with the Gateway grantees directly. Yeah.
Thanks for introducing yourself. I appreciate that. I'm going to jump right into questions. One thing I will say again, for those who are in attendance during the course of the live recording, we just did share a Google Docs form in the chat. If you have any questions that come up as you think about them during the course of the session, please go ahead and add them to that list down towards the bottom of the form. We'll make sure to get to as many as we can in the time remaining. But I'm going to jump in and ask you all, could you give us some background on the center?
Yes. The Center is a nonprofit organization in Puerto Rico, a 501c3 that's been here for the past 15 years. It's dedicated mostly to investigative journalism, but we also have a litigation program and transparency program, which Carlos coordinates in a way, and also a training institute for local journalists and journalism students, and also for reporters from the Caribbean region. Our work is very, includes a lot of topics: public education, health, environment, government, the bankruptcy process, and the recovery process after hurricanes Irma, Maria, and after the earthquakes in 2020. We are a 17-person team basically right now, full-time person team, comprised of editors and journalists. We also have other kinds of contractors like translators and videographers, etc., and data persons. Our newsroom has done important investigations regarding the excess of death after Hurricane Maria. Also the WikiLeaks trove that was basically investigations and the revelation of a chat between the governor, Ricardo Rosselló, and his friends and closest public officials, and how, the abuse of power that was happening and the corruption that was happening around that administration. We've also covered the bankruptcy process in Puerto Rico, fiscalizing the fiscal oversight board, or the fiscal control board, that was imposed on Puerto Rico by the US government. And just for a clear background, for those who don't know about Puerto Rico is a territory of the US, a colony basically. And we have our own legal and government structure and framework, but we also have the federal government operating in Puerto Rico.
So let me stop you there, because that actually leads into a question I have for y'all. You just pointed out the fact that it is a U.S. that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. How does that impact, or how does that? Yeah, how does it impact how you approach public records based reporting?
Yeah, in terms of Puerto Rico, the legal framework, different to most states, Puerto Rico is one of 8 U.S. jurisdictions who has a constitutional right to access public information, public records. It was decided by the Puerto Rico Supreme Court in the early 80s, 1982. The landmark case actually turns 40 years this year. And when the Centro was founded, part of its mission is defend this constitutional right through the different ways that Carla just explained, which is reporting, journalist training, and litigation. So in that sense, the Centro was founded on the premise that it was going to use public records requests and litigation in general as a tool to help its reporting. So in that sense, I know it's very different from FOIA at the federal level and from most states, in the sense that we had a recognized right before we had our equivalent to a sunshine law. There is a statute that governs procedures in the agency, but it was passed in 2019. So before that, and still today, you go after an agency denies a request, there's no internal administrative appeal. So you go directly to court. You even go to a special section in the courts that is supposed to go faster. So you get a judgment saying you gotta disclose those documents maybe within a month. So it's not as fast as journalists would like, but compared to other states that operate only under sunshine laws, it can be faster. And obviously, compared to FOIA, it is a lot faster. So in that sense, having a right recognized has created a sense in Puerto Rico in general, and the public and the citizens, that is very entitled to know how the government is operating. And it's a citizen's right, it's not a press right, even though the press is the one who uses it the most. There has been a lot of action lately of civic organizations, groups, activists, environmentalists filing their request and then suing into court, especially after Carla mentioned the Hurricane Maria death. So the government had given a number of deaths that occur directly and indirectly from the hurricane, but it was litigation done through the CPI, and that we were able to find the real number, which was thousands more times than the reported officially, and that helped people understand better, and because they were living it, there were their family members who had died after the hurricane, that they were entitled and they had a right to know how that was being handled in the government. So that was a very key moment, not only for the center, but for Puerto Rico in general, of how they carry out this constitutional right to access public information. So in that sense, it's very different from the states and from the federal government as a whole.
Well, that sounds like a very convoluted approach, and it is great to see that there are folks working to make sure that transparency is applied. Now, Carla, you did kind of hint at answering this question earlier. Some of the work that you've been doing is related to the Gateway grant that you received earlier this year. As a note for those who are in the live document, the current round of Gateway grants is open and it closes on Friday. And we'll make sure that link is active in the description for as long as that period stays open. But could you talk a little bit more about what the project is that you're focusing on, or one that you are still focusing on with the Gateway grant right now?
Yes, I just want to mention before I get into the Gateway grant that DocumentCloud and MockRock support to CPI doing the investigation regarding the death after Hurricane Maria was instrumental. DocumentCloud helped us upload all the death certificates of the deceased and analyze those documents, and that was part of the verification process for the whole investigation, was the integral part of that investigative process. So I just want to acknowledge that they were a very important part of that work that we did. Regarding do you want to talk about the case?
Yeah, maybe I can talk a little about because it has a legal component to it. Because it's not only the right can be complicated here. What Congress did in 2016, when it passed the Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, was it short for PROMESA, which is promise in English, but I can tell you there's no promise at all in that acronym. It created this board, the Fiscal Control Board, which is federally appointed, but oversees Puerto Rico's entire restructure debt process, and it's supposedly aimed at returning the island to fiscal stability. It is basically imposing austerity measures. You know, they have complete control over budgets, long-term fiscal plans, and they even have the power to override laws passed by the local legislature in Puerto Rico. So they're the de facto rulers in the island right now. And since they started the board was created in 2016, close to 2017, they promoted a culture of secrecy. They constantly denied public records requests from journalists from El CPI, and they have actually argued in court that they're not bound by this constitutional right that I just explained before, although the board is, according to the law, it's an entity of Puerto Rico, and it's paid, its operations paid by taxpayer money, the people of Puerto Rico, but they say they're not subject to the right like every other agency. So the idea for the Gateway Grant was, every record that we've been able to get, whether through litigation or the ones that they've decided to make public, and I can go through the different categories moving forward. So we're creating this platform, basically a repository and one-step all archive that has every public record that we know from the board, and we're using that through the Gateway Grant, and it's going to be obviously all uploaded in DocumentCloud, and we presented it to the public as the place to look. Where the name that we've given it is the search, or like the search engine for the junta, the board, and buscador. So it's like, I don't want to give a credit to anyone, but like the Google for the board, so you can find everything that you want to know about them, and we're making accessible to the public hopefully soon. And that is the idea of the grant. Everything that we managed to get, and just make it as accessible as possible, not only for journalists, but for citizens, for historians, for people that do or sort of research at universities, so they can follow in detail with public records everything that has to do with the debt restructuring process in Puerto Rico.
That is an important project that we're grateful that you're all taking on. And Carla, you kind of touched on it before, kind of in that last answer, in the beginning of that last answer. But is there anything specific related to this project? First of all, thank you for we are grateful for the opportunity to go ahead and provide support for projects like this, in terms of being able to help you do this work. But is there anything in particular tied to this project? And I'm pretty sure Sonia may be able to jump in a little bit about how we're doing it, but is there anything in particular tied to this particular project?
I think that the reason why this project needed a partner like the Gateway Grant and the DocumentCloud and MockRock is because of the volume of the documents that we're talking about, right? With the help of Sanjin, the magician, we've uploaded already more than 30,000 documents coming from the bankruptcy docket at the court, which is immense. But also from the first group of documents that we received from the board as part of the litigation, which were like 18,000 documents. And also we have been able to, what do you say?
That's great.
Scraping, I'm sorry, scraping the documents from the oversight board website, which were available but were not searchable, which is a huge problem for citizens to access them. So this is an archive that is going to have all the comprehensive amount of data and documents regarding the fiscal control board. Some of those documents have never been made public, so some of them people haven't had access to them before. We will not make them all public immediately when we launch the project, because a part of those documents are being used for investigations. So once we start producing those investigations, we will keep publishing them. And I think it's a great contribution to transparency in Puerto Rico, given that the control board, frankly, controls the budget of Puerto Rico, and even the passing of laws in Puerto Rico that require any kind of budget allocation. So it is de facto the government of Puerto Rico. In that sense, I think this is a very important contribution to public information in Puerto Rico.
So taking a question here, what would the solution have been had you not used DocumentCloud? How would you have been able to do this project?
Well, that is a question that I've never thought about. I've been counting on DocumentCloud since we started our relationship in 2015, probably. We've used them for several important projects like the death certificates, but also for other projects. I guess it would cost us lots of money to put a server that can make available this volume of documents, and we wouldn't be able to use all the add-ons that DocumentCloud has available. So
yeah, I agree with what Carla says. Not only money in terms of like the server, but manpower, human power of like going through them. Like we feel like the add-ons really do make the journalist's job a lot easier, whether it's how they turns the document as OCR, whether they can annotate, whether they can extract data, all the features that they have, the exporters. Just it makes at least the job for journalists easier. But once we make this project available for everybody to see, the idea is to keep adding add-ons and let them know how they could use all the features and just make it available to everyone, not only journalists. So in that sense, that part of the project would have been able to be done, make it as accessible. And as Carla said, there's many of these documents, especially from the bankruptcy proceedings, they're scanned documents, so it's very hard for people to search. The ones on the website are not organized in any way. They just upload them, and that's it. They didn't even have a search bar until like really fairly late in the game.
And it only searches for titles.
For
of the
titles.
documents, not the content.
Not the content. So it would have been a completely different project, or maybe it wouldn't even existed, to put it that way.
Okay, so that's good that's good to hear, or that's not good to hear, but good to hear. Were there any issues that came up, or any issues that was any? Not that you have to answer that question, but
yeah. Yeah, I think he's been great as helping us because there are servers that are big and Sanjay, you feel free to jump in whatever you want to and how you helped us because we wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So he's helped with the scraping of a lot of the documents that would have required us a lot of time to do.
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit. So I think like two phases to my help on the project was one, just like mass scraping documents from the two different sites that I primarily focused on, which recently has another hiccup that I've been able to, I haven't updated you guys, but I've been able to kind of fix is so we did a large scrape of the documents the first time around. It was something like, I don't know, 22,000 or 23,000 documents. And since then, the court docket website implemented a CAPTCHA system for downloading these documents, which means like you need to every once in a while, you need to manually solve a puzzle to download documents. And so that's one technical challenge that we had to face for this project. The other one is once we had this large set of documents, we knew that each one of them had a court filing date and a generation date for when these were reported. They were basically machine stamped at the top of each document in blue. And we wanted a way to kind of categorize these documents in a very easy way so that people could see kind of historically, like on what given day, what documents were filed and when. And so we created an add-on that went through the documents and extracted that filing date and made it as a tag on DocumentCloud. So now you can, if you want me to screen share, I can demonstrate what that kind of looks like really quickly. But basically, when you click on tag, you're able to see what other documents were uploaded during that particular time, and it allows more readily available searching through a very large set of documents. So those were two challenges that we kind of came across as we went through this project.
And I want to comment on something with this is very important that we decided to have this sort of add-on because we have, different sources of the documents, but it all involves the operations of the board. So we have one side where they're saying in court during the bankruptcy proceeding, we have what they decide to publish on their website. And then on a third one, we're probably going to have their email communications, behind the scenes. They're going to be able to cross-reference with the dates, everything, and see, what did they say to the court, what did they say to the public, and what they were saying internally. Eventually, when we have all the documents, after the investigation, the reporting is unavailable, people are going to make their own connections, not only the ones that our journalists from CPI were able to make. And that's why that add-ons has been very important for this project specifically. And I see there's a question in the chat, and I'll go ahead and answer it. We're not tampering or.
Let me read the question in so that you can answer the question. Can a document that is uploaded to DocumentCloud be used as evidence in future court cases?
Yes, and the thing is that the documents that are uploaded to DocumentCloud are as we receive it, whether already from a court proceeding through the litigation or through another court proceeding, which is the bankruptcy. The only one would be the one from the website, but we're not manipulating in any way. We're not annotating them, they're just there. So in a sense, if people make those connections later, they're all public records and there's no annotation or anything. So it will be different depending what kind of proceeding that will be, but they could definitely be used in another proceeding because they are public records and we're keeping them as such in this archive.
To answer a little bit technically for the question as well as for tampering evidence, on DocumentCloud, each document that gets uploaded also has something called a file hash, which is basically a unique signature for that document. So if there was tampering of the document, you could compare the file hash that exists on DocumentCloud to the one that was uploaded in the court proceedings, for example, and see that there was some editing that was involved. So there is a way to prove that they're the same document, essentially, at least in a technical sense.
Just to mention that as part of the first group of 18,000 documents that we received as part of the first case. Some of those documents were used by bondholders, as a matter of fact, in the court proceedings at some point, because they were saying that what the board was saying in court was different to these communications, internal communications that they were having. And the documents, especially regarding the bank accounts of the government of Puerto Rico, the numbers were different from the ones that were set in court. So just to point out that this may happen, definitely.
That kind of gets into the other question I had for you, was to give examples of the impact that having these documents are having in terms of transparency and availability. I didn't know, is there anything else? Are there any other examples that you can think of to share with folks?
Yeah, I feel like there's, from that first batch of litigation documents that was made public, some time ago, there were emails that revealed a lot of conflict of interest with U.S. representatives in different ways. They were emailing local officials and board members regarding, the reconstruction after Hurricane Maria 24 hours after the hurricane passed. I have someone that can help me rebuild, So those kind of things, you can see the corruption in that sense, and that impact was huge. Carla definitely talked about how the bondholders are using them. And we feel that after the whole archive is complete, that cross-reference is going to be amazing. And so we're hopeful that soon, everything can be done. The court documents are going to take a while because we're still in litigation. We're waiting on a decision from the United States Supreme Court, and we're still like in production. We're still waiting for disclosure with the local government here and whatnot, but hopefully, we'll have that. That's going to be integral to comparing to the other ones that are going to be already uploaded once we launch the program.
Were you able to explain this court case?
No, I haven't. I
think you should mention.
I think, yeah, Carla says that she wants me to explain the U.S. Supreme Court case, which doesn't happen fairly often. As you all know, the court sees maybe 70 cases, 80 cases a year. And the fact that this 15-year-old organization was started in Puerto Rico in a small office, and now it's an award-winning organization, has a case there is very big. And it's basically, we were talking to you all earlier that the board is an entity from the government of Puerto Rico, but sometimes they want to feel like they're part of the federal government, sometimes they want to feel like they're part of Puerto Rico. So they're invoking immunity doctrines. We are very technical, we're not going to get into them, but they're saying that basically they're immune from receiving or subject to this constitutional right to access information. And we've won in the district court and the court of appeals at the federal level. They've said, no, there's no immunity, you're subject to this right. But then the United States Supreme Court decided to hear the case, and it was argued in January. And basically it all went down to the idea of like whether this law prohibits or not the fact that they can be subject to this right in more broader terms, or whether that immunity exists. And that is an immunity that is for the territory of Puerto Rico, and they want to take it as their own, but the thing is, like, that is an immunity that is usually reserved to states, and a state wouldn't have a board as the one that Puerto Rico has right now. So that is the irony of everything, they want to be like Puerto Rico sometimes, they want to be like a state some other times, and we don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully the case is not over after the opinion comes out, and there might be some more litigation. But it's a big case. Not only, the fact that the justices have to even say, the Puerto Rico Constitution promotes openness, and the board members had to tackle that in an oral argument. It is important for transparency that issue was up there. But it's been, more than 5 years of litigation, because they really don't, and everybody asks the questions: what are they hiding? What do those emails have that you don't want to make public? We obviously have our suspicions as the batch they already produced, that they're saying they're conflicts of interest. They're saying one thing behind closed doors, but then publicly saying other stuff.
So our strategy right now, as regarding the Gateway Grant project, is that if we win in the Supreme Court, we will next day make public this project, saying this project will be the home for the documents they now have to hand in. Or if we lose, which we will not, if we lose, then we will say, whatever they are trying to hide, this is the one-stop place to get all that is available until today about the control board. So this is going to be our response to whatever happens with the case. Of course, we're trying to rush things to have it ready in the next few weeks, so that when court decision comes down, we are ready to make it public.
That's going to be a big thing, regardless of whether you win or whether you win. Either way, you'll get a chance to go ahead and make sure that folks are able to access this information. You've already kind of answered the question about what are the plans moving forward. Is there anything else you'd want to add to that? Or anything else that might be possible?
In the document that you posted on the chat, there are links to the stories that we've already published with documents we have. In terms of, in general, of the impact of our work against the board in court, but also reporting on the board and the bankruptcy process. I think basically that we've pushed as hard as no one in Puerto Rico for accountability regarding the control board. And I think that sets the tone in press conferences and in the way that other journalists that are not from CPI fiscalize the board. I think they feel that they can push harder because we've been opening that path, so that's also a more intangible way of having impact.
Thank you. I was halfway through putting a note in our chat to go ahead and encourage more questions to be in the doc that we have available. So we will, that's a lot. I'm going to jump into a question for Sanyin first and then come back to a question specifically for you all. Although it's kind of for both of you all. From the document, do any of the documents that you've obtained contain consistently structured data that could use further extraction, that can be modified, or modified in the sense of being able to go ahead and use it in a structured way to help you do additional reporting?
A lot of them are court cases. So there's like artificial intelligence tools out there right now that do things like pulling legal citations that might be interesting to run on this larger subset of documents. I haven't looked too deeply into it. I've been mostly focused on just getting everything up there and tagged properly and organized. But I think that could be one avenue of analysis that's been undiscovered yet, is whether or not we can use some machine learning to kind of pull, whether that be like a summary of a document, because there's a lot of documents. It's difficult to read through all of them, even with an organization such as CPI size. So, making a way that we can summarize documents might be of value. There are add-ons currently that do summarization. it would be interesting to kind of combine that with legal citation to see if we can get a gist of what the larger set is about, without doing, searching and stuff like that.
I think also that there are going to be keyword searches that have never been done before, like using the name of a certain bondholder, or and having all these data not only from the bankruptcy process, but from internal communications. That might be interesting. So there are lots of ways that we haven't thought about, but can be, are possible.
Someone in the chat mentioned maybe making like a network map or something of the people and organizations that are kind of most referenced in this document. Doing some visualization on the large set would be cool to see, like, oh, which name appears the most in these documents and which one's more rare, and like what organizations are involved and like who are the players. That might be interesting.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
We can write that down as an idea. We can talk about that a little later too.
And related to that, another question in the document is tied to, is there a feature that would improve the project or reporting for y'all at CPI? Is there a feature that you think would be beneficial moving forward?
I think the add-ons that, the list of add-ons that DocumentCloud already has are really amazing. We've been thinking about a few of them that we haven't used in the past, and that for this project are really interesting. But we haven't thought of something that is not.
I think we gotta keep playing a little bit more, and the journalists need to start playing a little bit more with the add-ons that McGrath already has, and maybe they'll figure out something that might need more features. But since we're still in the stage of setting up the platform, and the investigations in some regards still ongoing, I feel like maybe that's something that in a future phase of the project could be decided on.
Yeah, I think that for this project, any timeline features are really relevant, because it's because of the volume of documents starting in 2016. We didn't mention that there is also a docket that's going to be regarding a case against the Treasury Department, the U.S. Treasury Department, a case that we, a FOIA that we filed to get the information about how the members of the board were chosen, basically. And those are also emails between the Treasury Department and the Congress and other government agencies that are going to also be available. So from 2016 until today, talking about probably more than 50,000 documents altogether, any timeline features, I guess, will help the analysis process.
That is great.
I dropped a note in the chat, but when someone mentioned the network mapping, something that I thought of is better what's called entity extraction. It's like pulling the significant names of people, organizations, places from a large set of documents. And we're working on a set of add-ons for that. right now. It should be released shortly. So I think this is a very good use case for trying to pull that sort of large information from that
Awesome.
set.
That's very good. Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, and if we, and those types of comments can also be added to that document as well that we have going within the chat, and we can have those forward. I've gone through all of my questions. I believe we've gone through all the questions that are currently in the document. Is there anything that I have forgotten to ask?
No.
Yeah, I think we've covered it all. We're just, hopeful that we can get this set up soon. We're finishing up a few things, or deciding the front end and then having our programmer meet Sanjay and just, working together. So we're hopeful that in the next few weeks, it can be ready, and depending when decision comes down from the US Supreme Court, ready to launch and make it available for everyone.
One question I had is, I forget when you mentioned they were supposed to hand down this decision. Is that supposed to be like May, June?
The latest for the term is the 30th of June, which is usually when big cases come, but I don't think this is not a national in the US sense big case, so it could come at any point starting in April. So hopefully everything works together, but if not, we'll make the adjustments. I think we're more advanced than not. We'll send you a message after today.
Totally. One other thing I noticed is Jeremy Singervine is in this call, and he's worked on some FEMA related documents. Hey, Jeremy. And so I immediately thought, like, especially with the hurricanes, maybe doing some public records requests, FOIA requests for FEMA related to the Puerto Rico response and like the allocation of funds and stuff like that. Just wanted to introduce both of you. You're both Gateway grantees, so I just wanted to make that kind of connection on the call. Yeah.
Nice. It's nice meeting you, Jeremy. We did file big FOIA requests regarding the recovery process. We have a website where most of those documents are available, and of course the reporting around them, which is called the Money Trail. In Spanish is Los Chavos de Maria. And there you will see the documents that we've gotten from all the FOIA requests that we've made through the years. There was a FOIA case that lasted like 4 years and produced lots of documents.
Yes.
And they're all in DocumentCloud.
That is great. And we will make sure that that link is included in the follow-up email and on this video as well. And it is great to see Jeremy on this call as well. So we will go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and make one more request for any additional questions that may come up. Otherwise, I do know that you all have to run because you do have to get to court today. So I am perfectly aware of that. I want to make sure that we honor your time as well, and those who joined us, which I'm grateful to see them in the crowd. Let me look at one more glance in the document. And then we will go ahead and make sure that we clean up the document so everything is where it's supposed to be, and share it out to folks after the call. And I will formally end this now, and then we'll do an additional roundup for those who are in the room right now. But thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We do appreciate it, and we'll be sure to go ahead and check you out next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.